So, students, today we are going to discuss peptic ulcer disease. Okay, so when we say peptic ulcer, we mean duodenal ulcer as well as gastric ulcers. Okay, so why does peptic ulcer occur? There are many causes of that. One important reason is increased acid secretion because of any reason like NSAID, corticosteroids, stress, isn't it? And it increases stress because of burn, head injury, trauma, ICU patients, and these conditions can lead to increased acid production. Or you see, in the stomach and duodenum, there is a protective layer of mucus, a gel-like mucus layer is there. There is bicarbonate secretion to neutralize acid. Okay, so both mucus and there is a bicarbonate secretion and there is prostaglandin E. These three, they protect the mucosa from the acid. Whenever there is imbalance occur between these mucus layer, bicarbonate, prostaglandin or increased acid secretion, there occurs a breach in the mucosa and can lead to acid secretion. A very important bacteria, gram-negative spirochete, which I said H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori, that bacteria is very important reason leading to ulcer, gastric ulcer, duodenal ulcer, as well as gastric carcinoma and gastric lymphoma, MALT-associated lymphoma. It is implicated in all these four conditions. Okay, so what H. pylori does? H. pylori is basically secretes an enzyme called urease. It also secretes catalase, cytokines, various, but important enzyme is urease, which acts on the urea and changes it into ammonia and carbon dioxide. This ammonia makes the environment alkaline there, and on this alkaline environment, this H. pylori grows. Okay, and because of the various other cytokines and catalase and enzymes, it elicits an inflammatory reaction there in the mucosa and can lead to ulceration. So this is how H. pylori leads to gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer. There is also some rare conditions like increased gastrin secretion, gastrinoma, as in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, antral G cell hyperplasia, isn't it? Hyperparathyroidism. These also, in these conditions also, there is increased incidence of peptic ulcer. Okay, so you have H. pylori, you have various rare conditions, gastrinoma, Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, hyperparathyroidism, antral G cell hyperplasia, increased acid production, alcohol, smoking, and stress of trauma, burn, head injury. All these can lead to peptic ulcerations. Okay, means there is breach in the mucosa, ulceration occurring in either in the stomach or in the duodenum. When it occurs in the stomach, we call it gastric ulcer. In duodenum, mostly that is in the first part of duodenum, we call it duodenal ulcer. If duodenal ulcer occur in second part, third part of duodenum, and if they are multiple, then we think that there is a suspicion of gastrinoma or Zollinger-Ellison syndrome in these conditions, because usually duodenal ulcer are solitary ulcers present. Okay. So you see, what does this patient will complain to you when they have peptic ulcer? Usually they have epigastric pain. On the basis of the just clinical symptoms and signs, it's very difficult to differentiate between gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer. But in gastric ulcer, usually patient complain of pain within half an hour after eating. When they eat, within half an hour, they increase acid secretion and all and can lead to pain. Whereas in duodenal ulcer, pain occurs in empty stomach. Hunger pain, usually in the late night, patient wakes up because of the pain, gnawing pain in the epigastrium. Okay. Patient may have nauseating tendency. Duodenal ulcer patient usually can, sometimes the ulcer heals and then symptoms disappear and again ulcer appears and symptoms appear. This is called periodicity. Okay, so nausea, vomiting, periodicity. Sometimes these ulcers can bleed and can lead to melena, and this can also lead to anemia and weakness and all. Okay, so ulcers can also um, manifest by their complications. And what are the complications which can occur? Gastric ulcer can, or duodenal ulcer can bleed, and ulcers can perforate and can lead to perforation and peritonitis. Especially duodenal ulcer can lead to pyloric stenosis and gastric outlet obstruction. Okay, the gastric ulcers can also change into malignant ulcer and gastric carcinoma. Okay, duodenal ulcer very rarely undergo malignant change, but gastric ulcer very frequently can undergo malignant change and can become malignant ulcer as well. Okay, so then how do you diagnose peptic ulcer? The investigation of choice in these cases esophagogastroduodenoscopy, that is upper GI endoscopy. You do upper GI endoscopy in empty stomach with mild sedation, and we can see the ulcer in the stomach, usually at the lesser curvature, at the incisura, in the body fundus, or in the pylorus or pyloric channel or duodenal, there will be ulcer. Benign ulcers are usually smooth rounded ulcer. Okay, smooth rounded ulcer, punched out appearance, filled with exudate and debris. Okay, and with a radiating mucosal fold. Is a characteristic of benign ulcer. Whereas if it is a malignant ulcer, you will see an irregular margin, you will see heaped edges, and it will be elevated and turned out edges. Okay, because there is growth is more at the periphery, so it will be heaped, elevated, margins will be there, and irregular will be there. It will be large. It will be large ulcer usually. There may be a mass and ulcer over that. So these are signs of malignant ulcer. So if there is a gastric ulcer, we usually take biopsy. At least 6 to 7 biopsies are taken. Can take up to 10 biopsies to show that this is benign and not malignant, or malignant not benign. Okay, duodenal ulcer they usually do not need biopsy because they are mostly benign ulcers. And what else we do? We do a H. pylori test. You take a small biopsy of the antrum, take it out, and then we usually put it on a commercially available slides, what is called CLO test, Campylobacter-like organism. If there is H. pylori present in the mucosa, it will have urease enzyme, which will act there on the urea substrate on the slide and change it into ammonia. Ammonia will change the pH to alkaline and it will turn pink. Then we know that the H. pylori is positive. So this is what you do. It's mandatory in peptic ulcer to check for H. pylori, because the eradication of H. pylori helps. Okay, you will also do routine tests, CBC and all. If the patient is anemic, you will know by hemoglobin. And so this is the test with ovarium, meal, and these investigations are rarely needed these days. Esophagogastroduodenoscopy is the investigation of choice for peptic ulcer. Okay, so you see that, you take multiple biopsy, you do H. pylori test. H. pylori, the simplest and the best is this only. Take an antral biopsy and put it on the slide and see for the color change. It can also be detected H. pylori by the fecal antigen test. In the feces, H. pylori will be passed, and if antigen is detected, you know that is there. Or in these patients, you can take blood and check for antibodies against this H. pylori in the serum. Okay, if antibodies is present, you know this is H. pylori is present. These are indirect tests. Another test is carbon dioxide breath test. Radio-labeled substance is given to the patient, and the urease breaks it into ammonia and carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is labeled with C13 or 14, and that is detected, excreted out on the breath, and that can be detected. But the simplest is H. pylori CLO test done by endoscopy. So this is how you can diagnose peptic ulcer. Okay, now how we treat peptic ulcer? Treatment of peptic ulcer basically is by proton pump inhibitors. You can also use H2 blockers, histamine receptor blockers like famotidine, cimetidine, ranitidine, but they are less effective and rarely used these days. Not mostly we use PPI, protein pump inhibitors like rabeprazole, pantoprazole, lansoprazole, omeprazole in their dose. And if H. pylori is present, we give H. pylori eradication therapy. Usually triple drug is given for 7 to 14 days. What are these triple drugs? One is PPI, any PPI you can give. Another is clarithromycin 500 milligram twice daily. PPI is also given twice daily, clarithromycin twice daily, then amoxicillin 1 gram BD twice daily. These three drugs twice daily can be given for 7 to 14 days for eradication of H. pylori. If patient is allergic to penicillin, then we don't give amoxicillin, we substitute it with Flagyl, metronidazole. So PPI, clarithromycin and metronidazole BD for 7 to 14 days. Okay. There are various other regimes as well, and one is quadruple treatment when we add bismuth as well. This can also be given 7 to 14 days, and this can lead to eradication of H. pylori. And PPI can be continued for 6 weeks. You can add antacid and sucralfate and things like that for the symptomatic relief of the patient. Okay, next time we will discuss the complications of peptic ulcer and their treatment. Thank you.